Hey, how's it going? Fancy seeing all these wonderful folks here. And fancy
Yeah,
seeing you here, Tanya. I mean, the it's strange to in many ways it's kind of strange to see OSINT and AppSec joining forces.
I agree. Should we slowly tell them what we're doing, or should we tell because people are still going to be joining us? It's going to take a while before people join us, or should we just like go right in and tell them?
We can give them a few minutes to get in since we got a slightly delayed entry. I'm looking to see how many people are actually joining the stream right now, so that we can have a good idea of everything. We got 5 viewers right now, so welcome everyone. We got one chatting, which is good. It's always good to have a chatter, and it, I wish I could say I was surprised that it is Ghostface Killa, but it's Ghostface Killa. Uh, so
Are they at
um,
least going to make some music for us?
maybe they will, but I've got an OSINT quote that I'm going to run with them. Presidents are temporary, OSINT is forever.
Like it. I like it.
I'm a terrible
Um,
graphic designer, or I would have totally made that into a t-shirt, and I still may. So if anyone beats me to it, expect a free background investigation.
oh, can we make a secure a We Hack Purple shirt too? It's like presidents are temporary, but AppSec is forever. We should make that for every type of cybersecurity shirt.
Oh, absolutely. And from the AppSec perspective, like to kind of show you like the relationship between OSINT and AppSec, perhaps we should think of it this way. Um, in the case of, do you know what a Missouri felony is?
No.
It is when you go to a website and you either right click and view source, or you press F12 and you find hard coded social security numbers on a government website as a journalist. And then when you make it public, the governor sends the state police after you.
Ooh, two thumbs down. Would not recommend to friends.
Yeah, 10 of 10, do not recommend. That is definitely um, a solid 5 out. That is not a solid 5 out of 7 at all.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we've got 7 people on. My clock says 10 after. Let's give them 2 minutes and then we'll kick it off and see how rowdy we can get it in here. Because this is definitely going to be fairly lit. If I want to use some of that younger folk vernacular.
It's gonna be fairly lit. It's not gonna be lit. It's gonna be fairly lit.
No, it'll be lit.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be lit because before we went on, I divulged that I'm on my second venti of the day.
Yes. Yes.
So Joe with ADHD and caffeine. Ooh, not to
The
mention, I've also got the nicotine too.
nicotine.
I've actually
We
got it
haven't.
in two forms, um,
Okay.
both of which are tobacco free. So I've also got these tobacco-less nicotine pouches.
Oh wow. Intense. I
It
mean,
that brings back Navy memories though. But yeah.
okay. Welcome everyone. So I can't see what people are saying. So if you want to say something that's to Joe, you put it in the chat. And if you want to say something to me, you say, "Hey Joe, can you ask Tanya this?"
I
And
am
then
actively monitoring the chat. I'm monitoring the chat as well as I know some of the people are coming over because of the OSINTion Discord. I'm flipping back and forth and watching that as well. So um, put it wherever you see fit, and I will be on the lookout for it.
I definitely put stuff into the We Hack Purple, not the academy, but the community. But people tend to check it like once a day. They don't check it like
Well,
over and over.
You know what? They're going to be in luck because this will find its way to YouTube and all sorts of other platforms at a later time. So, it's one of those cases that they may be missing it live, but it's forever.
Maybe
And
yours could say presidents are temporary, but OSINT is forever, and ours could say prime ministers are temporary, but AppSec is forever.
there you go. Yeah. Um, gotta find a way to distinguish with that. Um, but OSINT is also global, as is AppSec. I mean,
Oh, I
it's
know.
the reality of the matter.
I know. Okay. Okay. I closed Slack for this so I would have more bandwidth. I hope you recognize my dedication to close Slack for a
I
few
mean,
minutes.
from that same note, I actually
Mhm.
shut down the music app on my computer as well. And I'm very musically driven. It is nothing unusual for me to be chugging away at say 3 in the morning listening to KMFDM.
Yeah.
And I had my problems with Ministry, but their song Disinformation just strikes a chord with me. It's great. From the chat,
Mhm.
Ghostface Killa says, "Tell Tanya that we said hello." So we're up to 13 viewers, and at least one of them, I'm going to assume all of them say hello.
Hi. I say hi back, and that I'm really excited to be here with Joe.
And it'll be just a moment, apparently, because apparently my browser crashed. So um, apparently it did not have a very good AppSec day.
Well, my Twitter crashed, so just my notifications. When I worked at Microsoft, so I have a lot of people on LinkedIn. So I have the maximum number, and then people are allowed to follow you. And they kept joking with me, like, Tanya can't have any more connections on LinkedIn or she'll break the whole thing. And sometimes we'd have a meeting and they'd be like, okay, everyone, so like tell it, like, please tell everyone in your network that we're doing this. And they'd be like, Tanya, please tell all of LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. It's
Right,
like, I
right.
use
Like
LinkedIn a lot.
I will save the joke. There was a joke I always heard in the Navy about the internet. I'm just gonna abstain from it. But yeah, it's like everybody. I feel like when I go to a conference, I feel like I know a lot of people, but realistically, it's like I can't tie your shoes with that. But then again, when you go to conferences, you don't really wear shoes with laces either. Um, in my experience, I mean, the few conferences that we've crossed paths at, you've been more in the business attire. So I would assume you have shoelaces at some point, but um, I couldn't tie your shoelaces with the size of the
Depends
network.
on how warm it is, because I have like boots that go up to my knees, and I'll wear those if it's cold. And then if
Uh,
it's warm, then like cute flats.
gotcha. Yeah.
I have heels, but I'm always worried I'm going to wipe out and embarrass myself because I hardly ever wear them. And I'm quite tall already, so I'm like around 6 foot in heels. And like I like the tallness factor, but the whole clumsiness factor, it's not as attractive.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm going to answer a question really quickly. Someone asked what band that was. So I'm just going to put the two band names in there. That's KMFDM and Ministry. We've got a question for you, Tanya, of what kind of resources are there for women in tech? This person says they are not one, but they know someone considering joining.
Oh, there's so for women in tech in general or cybersecurity.
The
So
question just says tech, but
okay.
I'm assuming it could be either or.
Okay, so mostly I'm really super involved in information security, specifically application security. but there are so many amazing organizations. So one that I super love is called Women Cyber Jitsu. So, like jujitsu, instead of the Jew part, you put cyber. And they're amazing. So like the president of their group right now, her name's Mary Galloway. She's amazing. I had her on my
I will plus one. I will plus one with that. And going back to what we were talking about earlier in the stream, I give Mary a solid 5 out of 7, or realistically a 10 out of 10. There's an internet joke about the solid 5 out of 7, but honestly, that's an organization that, I mean, I'm obviously not a woman in tech or cybersecurity. I'm an ally of women in tech and cybersecurity, but that's one of the organizations that is welcoming to from an outsider perspective. They are welcoming to everyone, and they have their focus groups as well. So even with women, you have like the LGBTQIA, the BIPOC, various other groups, and they really, they deliver without ego. And that's within this industry, especially when you have large personalities, that's something you really have to cope with.
Yeah. If you're into privacy, there's a WISP, so Women in Security and Privacy. And so they do a lot of privacy stuff, but they also do quite a bit of security stuff. And they have been doing this thing the past several years where they give away a lot of free tickets and figure out travel for women to be able to attend a lot of different types of conferences. And they really tend to hone in on DEF CON. And then they'll do a thing where basically you get to meet each other, so you have someone that you're comfortable with to attend all the things with. And I think that's A+, super awesome. There's WICYS, so that's WICYS. And I'd love to tell you I know what it stands for, but I'm gonna just not do a good job. And they tend to do a lot of outreach in universities and colleges, and then we'll have local chapters as well. There's WOSEC, Women of Security, so WOSEC. They are an organization that I founded, and we had 34 chapters around the world, and then COVID ruined a lot of things that were fun. So we're now down to, I think, like 6 or 8 chapters, which is fine because the purpose is to just meet other cool women and non-binary folks that like live near you that are in that field. There are so many amazing women in tech groups. There's also conferences. So there's 2 in particular. So there's a whole bunch. There's 2 in particular I'd love to call out. One is called the Diana Initiative, and it happens the day before DEF CON starts, August 7th in Vegas. And I'm proud to say we had Purple as a sponsor. And I'm going to be one of their keynotes this year. And I've been a fan of Diana forever, like basically since they started. And their entire purpose is to try to get more people from underrepresented groups into cybersecurity. And they want to make this super safe, welcoming place for everyone. And it is awesome. It's in the Westin in Vegas.
What was the acronym for YSI?
WICYS, WICYS.
Got it. I'm putting this real time in the chat for folks. So I was getting the transcription there.
There's another lady, like women focused conference. So Diana Initiatives for everyone that's underrepresented in tech, but it tends to be mostly women that attend. And then there's Day of Security. So instead of security, you add an H in there. So it's SHECURITY. And it is, so it's in Boston usually, but it's online as well. And they are like all about trying to have like tons of awesome lady speakers. And it's really good. There's also like subgroups and organizations for various things. So for instance, I am a CEO and startup founder in security. And so I'm part of something called the Forte Group. But until you found your own startup, you're a CEO or a CISO, that's not really for you just yet. So as you grow your career, there'll be like a group of people that would really love to adopt you, I've learned. And so there's always like different groups of like women and other people. So there's also like, if there are people of color, there are special groups to try to help all of you feel more welcome and more just point blank wanted, because we need all of you to be part of our industry if we're going to succeed. We really do. And I actually just recorded a podcast episode about this for the We Hack Purple podcast, which comes out in March, all about like a ton of different ways we can try to get people in and help more people find their way in, because that's sometimes the hardest part. Getting you in and then helping you excel and want to stay.
I totally agree with that. And to the end of getting you in, I mean, on the job front, it's a little bit tricky for people to get in already, because even though we tout that we have a negative unemployment rate, we still have people trying to hire unicorns. They want people with like 18 years of Ethereum experience and a CISSP for an entry level janitor in the SOC position, not even the SOC, just a janitor in the SOC position. So we've got that problem. But even with that, it's like once you get in, there's so many directions that you can go. What do you want to do? And it's like, anytime I get that question, I always say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, getting in, I think that's kind of an important thing as well, is get into industry or start to tinker with things via the professional organizations, the special interest group specific ones, whether it be women, underrepresented groups, BIPOC, even LGBTQIA+. I mean, I have previously presented at the Diana Initiative in Vegas. Very well received. And then that was the year I did a privacy-based talk of like, you are who you are. People hate you because of who you are. It's not your fault. Here's how you throw them off your track. So it was kind of like an anti-OSINT type talk. But I also presented another conference during that time frame for another underrepresented group that I'm a huge fan of, is QueerCon. And QueerCon's party at DEF CON is amazing. And we always hear about DEF CON shenanigans. There were no shenanigans at that party. Like, they don't put up with shenanigans, for one, and for two, everybody that was just there, they were chill and they knew how to act. And I was very impressed with that. But you also have groups like, if you're a veteran, you have groups like VetSec and VetCon. You also, depending on where you are, you may have your local DEF CON chapters. You may have a 2600 group. Depending on your flavor of what you're interested in, OWASP also has chapters. ISACA has chapters. ISC Squared has chapters. I don't think
We Hack Purple is sort of ish starting chapters. We're trying not to, but it doesn't work. So we figured we should just be supportive and do it.
Exactly. And I know in my local area, we have a Women in Security chapter. I believe it's Women in Security. If I misspeak on that, I totally apologize. But I also never willingly admit where I am to wide audiences. So someone from the group would have to see this to hit me with it. But yeah, importantly though, figure out what you like and what you're good at. Like, if you can find something that marries those two, like, everything's going to be a Venn diagram. You're going to do things that you're not good at, and you're going to do things you don't like. But the quicker you can make that Venn diagram look like a circle, the better. Because burnout is real.
I have an article that might be really helpful for people that are new to security, and it's about all the different types of jobs that exist. I'm just putting it in the chat, a link to it.
Got it.
I was a software developer for a really long time. I loved writing code. I remember people were like, you should try something else. And I was like, no, nothing will ever be as fun as this. And then I discovered security. It took me a while to, I met someone who convinced me to become a pen tester, and he mentored me, and that was great. And I was a pen tester for a year and a half. And then I discovered AppSec and was like, goodbye, pen testing. I want to hang out with devs all day. I want to help them do better rather than tell them how wrong they are and they made 100 mistakes. And I'm a social butterfly. And so that was the right job for me. And so I didn't know all the jobs that existed. So I made an article about a lot of them. It's not even complete, Joe. I don't even have OSINT on there.
But how dare you? I've got to clutch my pearls.
But I feel like if you can figure out, like Joe said, like the thing that fascinates you, that's the place you want to go.
That also being said, though, I'm going to tell you, you probably don't want to be entirely like Tanya and me as well, in that we spend a lot of time outside of working hours doing work or things like building the community. Nothing wrong with building communities, nothing wrong with doing work and the whole hustle culture. But I will tell you, this industry will drain you dry if you let it. You have to exercise the self-care, set healthy boundaries, and take some time off. I try to make it a point, honestly. I try to make
Mhm.
it a point that I sleep 14 hours one night a week. But
That sounds amazing.
if you look at my sleep schedule the rest of the week, you'll understand
Oh.
why it's called the sleep savings account. But have that happy medium. Don't let the industry completely consume you
Yeah.
because it
Yeah,
will.
I found doing AppSec, like I always felt understaffed, like there's not enough. Like I'm like, why are there 1,000 developers and me? We need more than me. And so, yeah, it can be really hard sometimes to put, like, unless you have to finish your day when it's finished. You're never going to fix every vulnerability and apply 100% of the patches that you'd like to. And there's always going to be more to do. And what you have to do is prioritize the things that matter the most to reducing risk to your organization. Or if you're doing AppSec, that's what you need to do. And sometimes it takes longer to do a really big move with a huge fix or like that makes a giant difference. But it's about trying to do the most you can and then ending your day and being like, you know what, I did all the things that I could do today and I'm going to shut that down and go in my case sometimes like play hockey, like ball hockey or something. There's like all sorts of things. I play music, etc., and go do the things that matter to you outside of work because you could stay there all night every night, you'll never finish. It's not like software development where I was like, boom, bugs fixed, going home. I've never had a day like that in security where I'm like, I did everything. So,
Exactly. And I mean, OSINT is very much the same as well, because honestly, I would say OSINT is even worse because if you go to an office to do work,
mhm,
because it's all on the internet, you don't lose access to your client or organization's development environment to look for those vulnerabilities. You can just poke around the internet like all day, every day. And then a lot of what we do involves reading the news. So, and sometimes it's like for some types of investigations, it's like read the news for this type of thing. Okay,
mhm,
well, this sounds kind of biased, or this is from a known biased source. Let me go find the counter bias to this. So sometimes you're having to read things that's borderline unsavory and then try to find that happy medium because, growing up, I always heard there was his side, her side, and what really happened. And that's kind of what you have to do with the news, with the bias.
mhm, mhm. Oh, I'm seeing there's more than one post from you. Twitter finally let me back in. Twitter has a number of tweets you're allowed to do per day, and then you get cut off. I was cut off today. Who
You got to pay
knew?
$150 a month for 500 tweets.
You never know. You really don't.
That I will say that is the going rate for using the API. Because
Oh, wow.
as I was saying before I joined or before we went live, um, a few of my tools that I had written, like the one that I published was Decepticon Bot, it requires the Twitter API. And then one that I use for hashtag and neighboring hashtag analysis that I effectively call Hashy, it relies on the API. And then I've got a couple others that do this or do that that have to have the API. And I was like, I pay for some APIs. I might pay for this. And I was like, Elon has crashed his Tesla and bumped his head if he thinks I'm paying 150 a month for 500 requests. No.
That's nuts. It's too expensive. Well, and
Um,
like, yeah, we'll leave that.
yeah. Someone in the chat, it's the Ghostface Killer, says that he's got a copy of your book about Alice and Bob learn application security, and they are excited to dig in.
Oh, thank you. I'm working on the next book now. There's been a bit of a delay because We Hack Purple's had a lot of excitement. Me and Joe are going to tell you about one of the things that are exciting. And yeah, so the next book's going to be Alice and Bob Learn Secure Coding. And I actually have a bunch of ideas for many Alice and
Mm.
Bob books,
I've got
but
a
I
couple
have
of
to,
Alice and Bob ideas. Alice and
yeah.
Bob learn OPSEC. Alice and Bob learn OSINT. Alice and Bob learn
Hmm.
social engineering.
You never know. I have to like learn those things before I write them. But yeah, I feel like Alice and Bob need to learn DevSecOps, security champions. Like there's a lot of things that those two really need to learn.
I mean, I think we honestly we all do, because seeing as you're on the AppSec side and I'm talking about the code I've written, you would probably completely disown anything I'm associated with if you saw how ugly the code I wrote is. It's like I only write in Python for the most part. I can manipulate some JavaScript and some. I mean, I was on MySpace. I'm an HTML whiz. Totally kidding there. I was proficient enough for MySpace, but um, I'm not savvy by any stretch of the imagination. Like the closest to AppSec I really get would be kind of like the whole attack surface monitoring perspective, the ASM, because there's a very heavy OSINT aspect in some of that,
Mm.
especially some of the unauthenticated stuff using everyone's favorite asset inventory system, Shodan. Um, and then looking for those Missouri felonies as well. You know, just this last Saturday, I was teaching a class. It was the intelligence and investigations people class to prepare people for this upcoming Trace Labs event this Saturday. During the
Mm.
final 2 hours of the class, we proactively look for a missing person. And I can't say the platform because reasons, but through that, in that final portion during the CTF, we actually stumbled across one of the missing persons accounts, which is nothing unusual. But I committed the Missouri felony, and I found that this website, like, it displays their first name and last initial. But
Okay.
if you viewed the source, you could get their full name, and we actually got last login details that was like less than a month ago.
Oh, wow.
So,
That would be
like,
amazing if you found them.
we didn't find the person yet. Uh, we're still brokering the conversations with the appropriate authorities. But in terms of a technique, that correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of a UI and an OPSEC or an AppSec flaw that allows nosy people to hook in.
Yeah, you should not be putting sensitive information in a hidden field. It's not hidden. It's not hidden. You should be putting in a cookie and you should be setting the cookie settings such that it's secure. So there's a secure flag, there's an HTTP only flag. You should also have like cookies expire after a certain period of time. So I don't know if you heard, Joe, but last month in Davos in Switzerland, IBM announced we have quantum computing now. And so they're now like, so a thing that malicious actors have been doing the last 5 years is like grabbing things that are encrypted and keeping them so they can decrypt them later. And so there's a lot of criminal organizations right now being like, I can't wait to decrypt these presents. And so
I've been
even
I've,
stuff,
I've been decrypting all kinds of stuff with Chat GPT this week. No, I'm totally
oh,
kidding. Um,
okay.
admittedly, though, I was joking with Chat GPT, and I got it to write a ransomware. And I also got it to write a Bitcoin tumbler. I didn't test it out to see if it would work, but it was written in Python, so it looked accurate to me.
Hmm.
So my
Yeah,
favorite
whether
term,
it's
it
random
seemed
enough or
legit.
not.
Yeah.
Pardon? Sorry.
With my favorite term, it seemed legit. I didn't test it.
Hmm.
If anybody
Yeah.
wants to test those codes out there, just let me know and I'll email them to you. You won't even know.
So should we tell everyone why we're having this stream? I mean, we could tell them.
We could tell them, or you know what? Let me do this. Sound off in the chat. Anyone have any clues in terms of why this chat exists aside from Tanya and I are like the BFFs forever? I mean, admittedly, I'm going to tell a somewhat embarrassing story about Tanya.
Okay, good. It'll be about how I've never heard of Benihana. What is it called?
Benihana? No, no, it has to do. It has to do with Benihana. But we were at a conference in Salt Lake City.
Hmm.
This was actually when we met. And after the conference, we were both in search of alcohol. So we went to a liquor store. I'm a US citizen with a US driver's license. Tanya is not. They would not sell her wine. So I had to buy Tanya's wine for her. And I had to wait. I had to carry it until we were around the corner because they had cameras watching for it. And then she had never heard of Benihana, so we went and ate Benihana.
It was so good. It was really good and fun. And also, like, what was I, 39 years old, and they wouldn't give me, like, it was not that long ago. It was like 2019. So I was like 40 or 39 or something like that.
I will
I
never
feel
admit my age. All I will say about my age is I am legally old enough to run for president, and that's all anyone needs to know.
like, is there a minimum age to run for president in the United States? Like, if you're 18 in Canada, it's just like you can do whatever you want. No one's going to vote for you if you're
You can
18,
run for
probably.
any office except for president. As far as I know, I think it's 18 for any office except for president at the federal
And then,
level,
and then what is the age for president?
35.
What? I was really smart before I was 35.
I knew everything when I was in my 20s, so I totally should have been president in my 20s.
Where I used to live when I was a teenager, we had a teenager who started his own newspaper, which still
Oh,
exists today. And
wow.
then he ran for local office and at like exactly 18 years old, like got in, and then he was in office for a long time. Like I lived in like a suburb of Ottawa and then I moved. And yeah, he was great. And I remember people being like, oh, this 18-year-old that does this. I'm like, he did a lot more than you did when you were 18, and point blank more than I had done either. I was
Yeah.
still a kid and I was like, yeah, you go, guy.
Yeah. I mean, at what I was doing at 18, I was already in the Navy. I
Okay.
was going through, I failed nuclear training at age 18, which was like the greatest mistake I ever made. And then beyond that, I didn't get to the submarine until I was almost 20. No, I was 19. So yeah, at 18, I was theoretically studying and partying, but not in a college setting. And I was living in Connecticut as some person from the podunk South, and everybody up there thought I talked weird because I talked with a big, thick Southern accent like this. And when I get really excited, I'd even talk even faster, and I'd almost sound like boom, how are and then I'm up in Connecticut where some of the dialect has people packing the car and looking for the scarf, and I'm like, what are they talking about? So yeah,
I
yeah,
could program in 3 languages by the time I was 18 and had my first job at my first tech company. And then I started college at 19 and started working at a startup. And I started my own company for the first time at 23. So like I have been very excited about being a nerd. Like I started programming when I was like 16.
you
But
know,
both my aunts and 3 of my uncles are all computer scientists. So when I was like, I think I want to take computer science in college, my whole family's like, what else would you do? That's all we do.
right. So I started college at age 25, got an IT degree, finished my bachelor's in a year and a half and my master's in a year, thanks to CISSP, honestly, and online school. Um, but the only programming I did before then, like, I mean, I'm old enough to run for president and I still can't competently code uh, correctly. I fight with it until it works. Um, but fun origin story. I actually had a TI-83 calculator and I programmed every single darn chemistry, calculus, whatever equation I had to learn for school. I programmed that darn thing into the calculator and they let me use it on all the tests. So I was like, boom, done. And that was about the only programming I did prior to getting into the field. I did some social engineering at OSINT. I got kicked off of AOL once for using Methodist tools and spoofing other people and chatting them up. It was all friends of mine, but I got kicked off of AOL briefly for that. I just waited for the next month when they sent me the next CD or floppy drive and just created a new account. It is what it is. Um, And then like I was always the shy person. So like even like for my guy friends, I was always like I was too shy to say, hey, I want to hang out this weekend. Can I have your number? We can call each other and figure something out. No, I would find a way to figure out their dad's name and look them up in the phone book. And I know how creepy that is now, but that's just how awkward I was. And I would end up, in a sense, doing social engineering in the cold call.
I used to play music professionally, and I had like a book of names of people that I knew or that I'd met at concerts. And I'd just call all of them. I'd be like, I'm playing a show on Friday. Do you want to come? It's free. There'll be beer. And I
Ooh.
just call every single person I'd ever met and invite them. And yeah, that went surprisingly well.
I tried the whole musician thing, like just, punk music stuff. And, with punk, you don't really have to be good. You just have to maintain your tempo and just have your amps turned up. But I learned I was tone deaf. Unfortunately, I learned that after I dropped like $2,500 on a Gretsch guitar and like another 2,000 on an upright bass and all this other stuff. It's like, I'm tone deaf. I can't carry a tune in a bucket with a lid on it. I'm the person that karaoke bars pay to come in at last call and make people leave. All
Oh,
right. All joking aside, let's tell everybody what we're up to.
Joe and I are joining forces. And Joe is putting a bunch of his courses into We Hack Purple Academy, and we're really, really, really excited to have him. He is our first official professor other than me. So previously there was a bunch of courses by me, and then the community, we had my friend Steve from Bridge Crew make one, and that's awesome. That's in the community, it's not in the academy. So there's no certification or anything that you get after. And so Joe put his first course in earlier this week, and there's more to come. Do you want to tell them more?
Absolutely. So if basically we are going to be bringing the material from the OSINTion ecosystem into the WeHack Purple Academy as well, in terms of the on-demand training, joint events, that type of stuff. We may even possibly find a way to do a joint OSINT AppSec crossover thing, like AppSec for OSINT folks and OSINT for AppSec folks, which would actually be really cool, honestly, because I'm sure there are some things that for fingerprinting that like we would chomp at the bit for. But yeah, so right now, currently on the WeHack Purple Academy, OSINT using Recon NG is live. I'm in the process of loading Accelerated Introduction to Intelligence. I'm currently remastering that course. I've learned a lot about recording for on demand, so I'm doing re-recordings of a lot of that stuff. After that will probably be alternative and advanced search engine intelligence, which is all of your Google dorks, but you also get exposed to a lot of non-Google stuff too. And I show you how to trick the search engines into giving you better results. Then if report writing is your jam or you want to get better at, and I'm going to be honest, everything within InfoSec, everything within cybersecurity, everything within technology, realistically, it's all intelligence work. It's just not the one that ends in int, right? Like OSINT. But at the end of the day, we're all doing intelligence work. So to quote John Strand, we have all of our techniques for the show. That makes for like cool talks and cool webinars and Twitch streams and stuff like that. We write reports for the dough. That's what the customers are paying us for. So if you can write a coherent report that reads well, that makes people understand what you're trying to tell them. I'm going to take some terminology out of the course that I'm about to mention. As long as you don't treat it like a PhD dissertation with like a 400-page count for something that you could have addressed in 3 paragraphs. And as long as you don't treat it like a professional wrestling main event that creates more questions than answers, you're good to go. And basically, I'm working on the final stages of releasing Introduction to Intelligence report writing. So that will be another one to come in that's going to be really solid. I think a lot of people are going to appreciate it. It is going to be a little bit OSINT focused, but some of the things will transcend the OSINT thing and be applicable for pen testing, DFIR, AppSec, threat intel, honestly, GRC type stuff, audits, any of the above. So it'll be pretty exciting. And I'm also working on the companion course to my book, Practical Social Engineering. I'm about 60 to 70% complete with the slides. So then it'll have to go through QA and QC and then on demand. So that one will be, and I quote, I'm going to use some terminology that I grew up hearing. That one's going to be a humdilly dinger. I'm going to guess at least 12 hours of material, if not more.
Gosh, wow, that's amazing.
It'll be all, if you want to know about social engineering, it'll be perfect for you. It starts out, hey, this is what social engineering is. Here's the psychology behind it. Oh, here's some OSINT, by the way. The next section of the book is, oh, you want to do social engineering? Cool. Here's how you write a good fish. Here's how you clone a website. Here's all this fun stuff. Here are meaningful metrics that actually address the security of your client organization. I don't care about opens and clicks. I care more about clicks than opens, but I really don't care about either. I care about the number of people who insert data into fields and like download stuff. Because if your organization's architecture is so fragile that opening or clicking an email crashes your network, I'm sorry, but you've got way bigger problems. It's not Helen in accounting checking her email. And then the final portion of the book is actually how to build an awareness program, how to understand the metrics, and how to conduct some threat intelligence against social engineering type attacks. But yeah, so all of it's on the forefront. It's going to be amazing. You know, I'm beyond ecstatic to work with a rock star like Tanya. You know, it's always a pleasure to interact with Tanya. There's always fun banter, but I always walk away learning something that I didn't know. And it's one of those things that those of you who are familiar with like some of my rhetoric, or you've heard me say stuff like this in the Discord before, but you know, quite frankly, when it comes to the when it comes to AppSec, quite frankly, Tanya is on the list of people who, quite frankly, terrify me, and that is actually a compliment. You join the ranks of people like Michael Basil, Chris Kubecka, Jenny Radcliffe, Aleth Dennis, who's going to be on the AMA coming up in a little bit. So you've made it the list. You've made it to the list of people who terrify me for all the right reasons.
I want to chime in and say, like, even if you decide you don't want to work in OSINT or in social engineering, learning to write a good report will, and because what you're doing is learning written communication skills, like that is a thing that set me apart from all the other pen testers on my team. I remember a CISO, so I had turned my report in, and then I was just walking through the mall that was near the office because they had a Starbucks. And so I passed the CISO, and he pointed at me and he's like, "You," and I'm like, "Oh God, no. Am I in trouble? Do you not like my report?" He's like, "That's the best report I've ever written. The entire thing made sense." He's like, "I'm a smart dude, but I'm not a pen tester. And I was never a developer. I came up to roll the network stuff, but I understood every single thing that it said, and we know what to do." And I gave it to the team, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's written in English instead of in security." And on top of that, so open source intelligence gathering and social engineering can help you get more of what you want in life, and also like protect you from certain types of threats. So years ago, so I used to live in a place called Ontario in Canada, and my two parents lived 500 kilometers apart because Canada's gigantor. And so I would travel to see my dad a lot, and it's expensive to travel if you don't own a car. So I would do ride shares with people. But if you're going to ride in a car with someone you don't know, you want to check them out first. And I remember, 2 hours into a drive with this guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I was telling everyone at work about you." And they're like, "Wow, she's a brave girl that she's just going to ride in this car with you for like 6 hours, apparently. Like, she didn't even ask you any questions or anything. Like, wow, she's like pretty trusting." And I was like, "Well, you're pretty trusting to ride with me." And he was like, "What?" He's 6'2". And I'm like the skinny 5'9" gangly human that I am. And I was like, "Yeah, you work here. You went to college here. This is your mom's name and where she lives. This is where you live. This is where your brother lives." And I went on and on and on and on. And I was like, and my best friend knows if I don't show up by this time to call the police. I'm like, also, my dad like is a black belt in karate, and he gave me a bunch of moves to do on you while you're in the driver's seat, so that I can just completely f up your jam. So yeah, you're really brave to ride with me. Do you know anything about me? And he's like, no. I'm like, do you like the playlist I've been playing? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, it's all your favorite bands. And he was like, ah! And he just for like 10 minutes, he's just like, but then eventually he calmed down and he's like, when we take a break, can you show me the cool karate moves? I'm like, oh yeah.
And I imagine you stopped by a fruit store and bought like some watermelons and started karate kicking them in the parking lot.
No, I was just like, so like the move my dad showed me, he's just like, if you reach here and like dig your fingers in here, like people are, it's game over. And because they're driving, they can't get away from you because they go up against the car or the window, you can still reach them. And he's like, yeah, like if something bad's happening, you're going to a place you definitely don't want to go, they'll stop that car. Anyway, so these are, it might sound odd, but it's kind of like a life skill to be able to look up things about someone and know something about them so you know you're safe. And on top of that, writing a report is the thing that can set you apart. I was the most junior pen tester on the team, but everyone said my reports were spectacular. And clients started asking for me, which felt great. Also because apparently I was the nicest pen tester. And some of the pen testers would deliver news in a not very nice way. And I was a dev for most of my life. So I imagine if I was going to tell myself this news, how would I like to do it? And then I'm respectful and clear and never trying to make someone feel embarrassed.
Yeah,
That's
being
not cool.
condescending or patronizing in a report is the hardest thing. When I write a report, I try to write with three specific tones. The executive summary and the conclusion, I try to write as concisely and quickly as possible in the most lingo-free, businessy tone possible, because you want to hit the bluff, the bottom line up front. Execs don't have a lot of time. They have a lot of meetings. They have a lot of other things on their mind. They just need to know the TLDR. Get that in the executive summary, and then you have to write some of the other preliminary material in a management tone, but you can intermingle some lingo, because more than likely they came up through the ranks. And then finally, get lingo really heavy in those gory details for the individual contributors. That's probably going to be tasked with reading the whole report. But, at the end of the day, these reports ultimately, regardless of whether it's a pen test, forensics, AppSec, OSINT, social engineering, ultimately, we are telling someone that their baby is ugly. You want to massage how you tell someone their baby is ugly as much as you possibly can in a way that they will not be set off any particular way. You don't want to make them feel stupid. You don't want to come across of I'm better than you, but
No.
those are deal breakers right out the gate. But having the ability to do that and have that soft skill, that's pretty powerful. So
Mhm.
with that being said, I mean, I definitely give your OSINT and social engineering skills there. I'll give that a solid 12 out of 7 instead of the solid 5 out of 7. So yeah, that's definitely like, that's some next level stuff that like that. Honestly, that sounds like something I would have done to somebody. If I were trying to be mischievous,
I
but
wasn't trying to make him feel bad. It's just he's like, wow, like, don't you feel unsafe with me? And I was like, no, you're the one that doesn't know what the F's going on.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and he said it was the playlist that really got him because he's like, man, this is like my favorite song. And I was like, I know.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And what I honestly, if I were you, it'd have been like, hey, oh, this is your favorite stuff. If you decide to try to pull shenanigans, here you go. What does the fox say? Or Freebird, or Rickroll, or the hamster dance, or the SpongeBob theme over and over and over and over again.
I
I'm
honestly,
really, I'm
like,
really good at finding annoying playlists.
I picked up a whole bunch of musical artists that I didn't know before that I really got into when I was like searching him online. Like there's this artist called Joel Plaskett, and I ended up buying all of his albums because I was like, this guy's great. So glad that I cyber stalked that rideshare guy.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
became friends because I became friends with literally everyone. I can't help myself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
I'm a
friends with
butter.
most people. I'm friends with most people, but I know a lot about others. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, we're pretty much up against time because I'm gonna drop this stream and prepare in 3 minutes for the Trace Labs AMA, which Tanya, if you want to join, feel free to do so. I can get you a Zoom link. You'll be with
Actually, I have a
some
work
OSINT
meeting.
monsters. Aleth Dennis, who's a multi-time black badge SECTF winner. You've got Levy, who is a dark web magician, and then you've got Beluve, who's one of the co-directors of Trace Labs, and then myself talking about looking for missing people on Saturday. But with that being said, just for posterity's sake, tell people how they can get in contact with you, assuming they're not already in contact with you on LinkedIn, since you know
Okay,
that's
I'm
80% of
connected.
the internet.
So if you go to wehackpurple.com, all of our stuff is there. So if you click on the Academy button, it'll take you on to our Academy, the community button to our community. We have a podcast. We have a newsletter that's super popular. So I do all of those things with my team. And then so instead of we hack purple, it's she hacks purple. And I'm wearing the shirt and everything. But basically, if you look up She Hacks Purple on the internet, that's me on TikTok, YouTube, wherever I'm currently embarrassing myself and talking about security. So yeah,
It, I mean, you
TikTok's
have
silly.
you have to embarrass yourself. I mean, that's like that's just how it is, you know. I mean,
I have to
I
say, I feel old when I use TikTok. I'm like, why does it keep making so much noise?
and see, like, honestly, TikTok is the place. Like, I have an account that's not me. Surprise, surprise. Um, but to that end, it's one of those cases where I go on there, and usually it's like I've got a few minutes to burn, and it's like I just go watch mindless videos. Like, I've been watching this guy. He's a rapper. He's doing it to get people to listen to his music, but he walks around with this giant Bluetooth speaker, and on his phone he has the sound of a dog barking, like a pit bull or a Rottweiler. And he's even went as far as to buy like a stuffed German Shepherd that's like comes up to his waist, and he put it on a leash, and he like lunges it at people and plays the barking sound and watches them run. And he sneaks up on like the mailman and the FedEx driver and the UPS, and like it's just him sneaking up on people and then running. It's like the most mind-numbingly silly stuff. But that's about all. Unless I'm investigating a person, that's about my only use of TikTok right now. But being in the US, TikTok is the devil right now. You know, be sure to record a TikTok video about the spy balloon, right? Um, I'm saying that tongue in cheek because I mean TikTok's ownership may be somewhat questionable, but let's face it, um, even though the others are publicly traded or formerly publicly traded companies, at the end of the day,
Mhm,
here's your OPSEC tidbit. They are
mhm.
all nothing more than an advertising firm that offers you something you believe to be of value in exchange for data about you. So it's all about risk management. I'm not hating on anybody for using TikTok. It's not my jam, but I also
Yeah.
typically don't have my camera turned on either because of my obligatory I've got a face made for radio joke.
Oh, come on.
Ah, hey, I mean, self-deprecating humor is the best humor.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Okay, you have another stream to go to, and I have a work meeting, which
You've
is
got a
way
lot of
less exciting this to be quite honest. I
you've got a lot of purple to hack.
have a lot of purple to hack, like it's not gonna hack itself.
It's not. Nope.
Thank you,
All right.
Joe
Thanks.
Gray and the OSINTion for joining forces with We Hack Purple. I'm really excited because now our students are gonna have so much more awesomeness to learn.
When
Thank
our
you.
powers combine, we are Captain InfoSec. I suppose. I don't know.
Awesome.
All right.
Okay, let's
Thanks.
go.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications.